Welcome to this week's Torah lesson. This week's Torah portion is Parsha Noach, and the question of the week is, how can we merit to receive a great place in the world to come? So in this week's Torah portion, Parsha Noach, the Torah portion begins and it says, Eile Toildeis Noach. This is the offspring of Noach. Noach ish tzaddik. Noach was a tzaddik. And again, we're learning now teachings of the Zohar, the way the Rebbe explains it, and the Rebbe's father, the Kabbalist, explained it as well. So in the Zohar, it says as follows, Eile Toildeis Noach. This is the offerings of Noach. And the Zohar begins and it says as follows, Rabbi, Pasach, that's the expression in the Zohar, opened up and he said, and he brings a verse from the prophets, Isaiah, that says as follows, V'amech kulam tzadikim, the whole nation is righteous, tzaddikim, righteous people, La'olam yirshu aretz, they're going to inherit the land, Neitzer matai, masei yodai lispar, they're my creation of my hands that I'm very proud of. Now, the Zohar continues on to say, based on this verse, and it says like this, I'll say it in Aramaic and I'll translate it. Zakoyin inun Yisrael, that the Jewish people are zoicha, they merit the mishtadli b'iraisa, because they put effort into learning Torah, and the yodin orchim b'iraisa, and they know what the Torah has to say, and in the beginning, in cause of that, because they study Torah, yiskun, they're going to merit la'alma de'asi, to the world to come. So in other words, that if someone studies Torah, you're going to merit a great place in the world to come. So it says in the Zohar. So the Rebbe's father, before he actually asked the question, which we'll talk about in 1 second, he says, who's the one that's speaking in the Zohar? Rabbi. What's the connection? Because everything has a connection. Sometimes we see it, sometimes we need glasses to see it. What's the connection of Rabbi and Parshas Noach and Noach? And the Rebbe's father explains, because Rabbi was in the level of Yisoid, in the sphere to his level of Yisoid, and Noach was a tzaddik, so he's also in the level of Yisoid, and that's why he's the one that shares this teaching. Not only that, the Rebbe says, if you go even a step further, Chia is spelled of a ches, yud, aleph. So numerically, that's 29. Twice Chia is 58, which is the same numerical value as Noach. Noach is nun is 50 and ches is 8. Also, Noach is made up of two letters, nun and ches. So nun stands for Noach and ches stands for Chia. So that's the connection with the teacher in the Zohar with Noach. But the Rebbe's father asked the question, 1 second. Noach was a tzaddik. Chia, we're telling you tzaddik yisoid olam. So tzaddikim on the level of Yisoid, what's their reward? Because they watched this attribute of Yisoid, which is basically guarding the bris milah. So why is the Zohar talking about Torah? And saying through Torah, to talk about the idea of bris. And the Rebbe's father explains as follows, and he says like this. The truth is that yes, Noach is a tzaddik Yisoid olam, and their level is bris. But here the Zohar is teaching us a higher level. What is a higher level than the level of a tzaddik? Tzaddik Yisoid olam, that guards the bris, the circumcision, is someone that learns Torah. So through learning Torah, you reach a much greater level. And like it says, the mishtadlin, they put effort into Torah. So the Rebbe says, now the Rebbe explains what is the idea, and he says as follows. That what happens is, there's two different types of rewards you receive in the world to come, based on what you do in this world. So for learning Torah, which is spiritual, you receive Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, which is a spiritual reward. By doing mitzvahs, which is physical, you receive the reward of Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead. Here the Rebbe says the chiddush of the Zohar is that through mishtadli b'raisa, through the fact that you're going to learn Torah, not only are you going to receive the Garden of Eden, which is a spiritual reward, but also you're going to receive what? You're going to receive the reward of doing mitzvahs as well. So how is that? If you're only learning Torah, it's only a spiritual thing. How come you're receiving the reward? And the Rebbe says, what does the Zohar say? The mishtadli b'raisa. It uses the word the mishtadl. What does mishtadl mean? You're putting in tremendous effort. So we're not just talking about you passively learning Torah. It means you're into it. Your whole body's involved. So when you're body's involved learning Torah. It's also not only you're using your mind, but you're using your physical body. So when you engage in learning Torah, you're totally passionate, excitement, and your whole body's engaged. That's why people, when they learn, they shake their body and they move their hands, etc. So then you get the reward of Gan Eden, which is spiritual, and you also get the reward of doing mitzvahs through learning Torah, which means you'll get the reward of Tchiyas HaMesim as well. And the Rebbe finished off, he says something very powerful. He says that we know that when a person gives charity, so your mind literally gets refined 1,000 times. When it comes to learning Torah. So if you want to be successful in learning Torah, you want to have clarity, you give charity. But the Rebbe says the same applies also here. When a person learns Torah, and you make an effort in learning Torah in a very, very, very profound way, so what will happen is that will make you much more successful in anything you have to do in the physical world, whether it's business or whatever you're involved in the physical world. By learning Torah, besides the fact you'll get a place in the reward to come, but it will also give you much more success in much shorter time in anything you have to do in this physical world. In other words, so to answer the question, what can we do to merit a great place in the world to come? The best investment is learning Torah with chayas, enthusiasm, and getting into it. That will give you the greatest place in the world to come. Thanks so much for joining us for our weekly Torah lesson. This week's Torah lesson is dedicated to memory of Baruch Ben Leib, Shlomo Yosef, Rachel Bas Lipa, Tzina Basara. May their souls be elevated by the Torah we're studying in their memory. For more information, please see our website, Chabad.swf.org. Thanks so much for learning with us this beautiful teaching of the Rebbe, and God willing, we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Shavua Tov.